spent. Nigga, where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going?
We are going to another episode of HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. This is the show that values time and puts God first. Appreciate you guys. It is a wonderful Wednesday. Thank you for kicking it here with me. So we have to start with this because a conversation that I feel like shouldn't be as confusing as it is, but because MVP writers and sports writers have never actually given us a reason to go, oh, this is the 100% criteria for MVP, for Defensive Player of the Year, all of these awards, right? But MVP is the big one. And Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo, they came out yesterday and they were like, look, hey, actually, look at Jokic's numbers. He is the MVP. I understand what SGA did was amazing, but look at the numbers. I'd be hard-pressed to go with SGA over Jokic. And here's my problem with this. The best player in the world has never always been the MVP. If it did, we all know the regular lines. Mike would have more. LeBron would have more. Kobe would have more. Duncan would have more. Shaq would have more. The handful of guys who would all have more MVPs because they were the best players in the world for longer stretches of time. Really, Jokic is one of the outliers. The fact that Jokic got 3 in 4 years, similar to when Bird got 3 in a row, that doesn't happen very often with just the best player. LeBron's won back-to-back, but never 3 out of 4, 3 straight like Bird. Shaq, again, only has the one. Kobe's only got the one. Duncan's only got, excuse me. So the MVP, who, again, it's just for shows to have stuff to talk about. Because if it was just be the best player, we would not discuss it in the same vein. We just wouldn't. That's the reality of the situation. So when you're going, oh, well, it should be Jokic. We know Jokic is the best player. No one, I think, right now would argue with you and say Jokic is a worse player or SGA is a better player than Jokic. Even if defensively, we know, again, I've started to been the last couple of weeks, Jokic's defense we have to start looking at. Luka can't be the only guy in the world that we say, yo, you're an all-time great offensive player, but we have to take some of that away from you because you're so bad on defense. Because Jokic is not a good defender. I know he was top 3 in steals, but again, not a really good defender. Doesn't move his feet very much. And so just throwing out the numbers, because here's the thing. Again, if you were to just throw out the numbers, Luka would have been MVP last year because Luka went 34, 9, and 10 last year. And is it that much different than 30, 10, and 10? I said this when Tony and I did group chat. When Tony and I were on 90 feet. We sometimes get so enamored with certain stat lines that we're supposedly told are always great, like the triple-double, that we start to lose track of, well, what if we still are a great number compiler, which all these guys are, but it just doesn't look like how we're used to being told it's great. Ronald Acuna 2 years ago went 40 home runs, 70 steals. The year after, Shohei went 50 home runs, 50 steals. And we saw all of the excitement, all of the celebration, all of the fanfare to Shohei, who, again, best player in baseball, two-way player, dynamic, something we've never seen before. Oh my gosh, how amazing he is, and he is amazing. But is 50-50 just because it's easier, or I guess because we like him more because we have 5 fingers or 5 toes or whatever that human connection is that really better than 40 home runs and 70 steals? So if I went, just because I didn't go, Luka didn't average a triple-double last year, but 34, 9, and 10, on a 50-win team with bad defense, isn't that pretty much the same as a guy who went 30-10-10 on a team with bad defense? And Jokic is in a state where he is basically mastered offense from his style of play. So are we just going to give him every MVP until the end of time because he's always going to have the best stats? We didn't do it with Russ. Russ went on a 4-year stretch, not just the year he averaged a triple-double, but Russ went on a 4-year stretch all the way through the Wizard year where he was putting up numbers we've literally never seen in the history of basketball. We didn't keep giving him MVPs. He kept making the playoffs, but we didn't keep giving him MVPs. So we have to draw the line somewhere and can't just keep reusing some of these same topics just to fill out segments or shows. And MVP voters, be serious, please. Please, please, please be serious. Start to get more concise. Start to get more consistent. Don't just vote for MVP because, well, I like this story. This helps me sell newspapers back in the day. Again, these guys are all pro. These guys are all voters. These guys all came from newspapers. They all came from networks that are trying to make money by talking about the sport. Start to have some real criteria for what the MVP is. Even if it was just best player on best team, okay. We could understand that better if we saw that consistently. Just make it consistent. Don't just pick and choose and go, oh, well, I like this guy this year. Give us something that we can understand. Give us something that we can look at and go, oh, yeah, that guy right there, that's the MVP. Is that so hard? Moving on to the face of the NBA conversation, and there was some interesting, and I saw a lot of people pick up on this yesterday, which is that Luka Doncic led the NBA in jersey sales. He's the first international player to do so. And does that mean now, because Luka's on the Lakers, and is he going to be the next face of the NBA? Look, I'm not going to say jersey sales don't matter. I'm not going to say that being on the Lakers don't matter. And I even will give some credence to the whole, well, Luka doesn't act like the other European players. The other European players are usually, especially historically, are a lot more reserved. They're quiet. They're not barking at people. They don't have the same kind of mentality or appearance that Luka has. And that's true. It's valid. The problem is, though, when it comes to all of these face of the NBA conversations, what nobody in the media wants to tell you is that they don't get to pick the face of the NBA. And I know that sounds weird, but you can't fake the truly impactful players. If you look at when we see people like posting all these different Mount Rushmores of, the Mount Rushmore of this topic, the Mount Rushmore of that topic. And one of the ones that I've always seen over the years is the Mount Rushmore of most impactful basketball players ever. And it goes Mike, and it goes Kobe, and it goes LeBron, and it goes Steph. And I've always pushed back on it that as amazing as LeBron is, LeBron's impact is not even close to the guy who should be on that mountain with those other three in Allen Iverson. You can have all the statistics, you can have all the awards, you can have all the sales. The people that are truly impactful to other people watching the sport and other players, you can't fake that and you can't create that no matter how many jerseys you sell or how many people in the media want to talk you up to actually being that. Allen Iverson was unique. Allen Iverson was a star by his own accord. He was not created. He was not generated. He was not fabricated. He was uniquely him. And the impact and the influential is probably a better word, but the influence of AI was so much greater than LeBron. And LeBron's obviously a way better player. And I love AI, but there's no debating it. LeBron's a way better player. LeBron's a better player than Steph, as great as Steph is. Steph influenced the way kids played basketball. As someone who worked at a school, I've said this so many times over the years. I've seen kids, it's happened since the beginning of time, try to jump and dunk a basketball because that was the thing in the NBA for so long. And how many kids have jumped, realized they can't jump that high, and hurt themselves trying to dunk a basketball, and they knew it was never realistic to begin with. Kids transitioning from that to trying to shoot as many threes as you can. Kids weren't even trying to dunk the basketball. You see it in real NBA games. Some adults, grown men, professionals aren't even trying to dunk the basketball. You see fast breaks that have turned 2-on-1s into a 3-point competition. That's influence. And it doesn't matter who you are. Take your biggest influencer in media. Whether you want to go that's Stephen A, whether you want to go that's Colin, whether you want to go that's Dan Pat, whoever you think is at the top and has the most influence, the biggest fan base, the biggest audience, the largest crowd to try to push their story. You can't create the face of the NBA. You can't create the most influential players. Otherwise, there would be someone like LeBron, who has been the most talked about athlete in the media, scrutinized or loved for the past 20 plus years. He's not going to pass what AI did as an influence. He's not going to pass what Steph did as an influence. And Luka, yeah, you might be on the Lakers. Yeah, you might be more American than the other domestic players. But no one's copying Luka. No one's trying to be like Luka. When we go face the NBA, I did my Western Conference playoff picks. There's a reason why Anthony Edwards, despite maybe some of his off-the-court stuff that people aren't going to love, there's a reason why he is in that conversation to be face of the NBA. And that's because you can't fake what Anthony Edwards is. Anthony Edwards is authentic, maybe to a fault. Anthony Edwards is himself. Anthony Edwards is a beloved player for amongst kids, fans, and the play style that he has just translates. He's one of the most athletic guys in the league. He's now one of the best three-point shooters in the league, just led the NBA in three-pointers. And I don't know what his jersey sales are. I don't know what his actual points per game are. And even if he's in Minnesota, which historically is not the biggest market or the team everyone goes to see and watch play, you can't fake Anthony Edwards. And that's why someone like Anthony, an Ant, is going to be in consideration for that face of the NBA far more than Luka, even if he's leading the league in jersey sales and your favorite media personality can't create that story for you. Can't fake that. It is a wonderful morning here. It is Wednesday morning. We are getting at the top of our hour two into our Eastern Conference playoff picks. We predicted the West yesterday. I talked myself into the Timberwolves going all the way to the finals. I didn't even have that before starting that, but the more I was looking at the brackets, I was like, yeah. A little bit of play-in reaction, and we got to discuss maybe the weakest move in the history of, I don't want to say history, but one of the weakest moves I've seen from somebody who's in management or an executive position in a while. This is HardFoul Radio. We will be back momentarily. I'm joined, as always, by the father. Will is in the building. How we doing, man?
Sensational.
How was drinking after 40? I hear that shit hits harder.
Yo,
Drinking at 40 is crazy. Number one, I never said I was drinking. First, I'm 32. As of
Hey,
like
man.
a week and a half ago. Second, I didn't even say I was drinking. I just said I was outside.
So you gonna convince everybody you was outside and had no alcoholic beverages at all?
Uh, nah. I'm just saying I never said I was drinking. I ain't saying I wasn't either.
I
But
understand, understandable. This nigga said
yeah.
this nigga said in the text message before we got on this shit talking about like, yo, I'm about to have a macchiato.
I did not say I was about to have a macchiato. Tony said something about Italian, so I just named it Italian style coffee.
I heard macchiato.
No, I said you can never go wrong with a macchiato. I got regular coffee though.
All right.
And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for joining in this wonderful morning. Excuse me. So, look, man, we got to do something about the playing games. And I know I keep beating this topic in, but I believe it's so much. The teams that are in the play-in, especially on the Eastern Conference side, like you saw it. Congrats to the Magic. They got the 7th seed. The Hawks will probably be whoever wins Miami, like that game. It's just, look, if we really want the play-in to go away, and I believe truly we all should want the play-in to go away, is we have to just stop watching these games. Because the only reason the play-in exists and is going to continue to exist is because people are watching the game, which means there's ad revenue, which means there's money, which means the NBA's bottom line is going to be benefited by the fact that they keep letting more and more teams into this playoff type scenario. And the reality is we shouldn't be letting them get away with this. At some point, Tony always says, have some damn shame. Have some shame. If you're a Heat fan, let's say you're just my age Heat fan. Let's play this game really quick. It's fun little quick mental exercise. You're my age. You're 30 years old. Wow, I hate saying that still. Okay, you're 30 years old. You are a fan of any of these franchises. Have some shame. You are a fan of the Miami Heat. You're 30 years old. You've seen Dwayne Wade, Shaquille O'Neal, the Big Three run. You've seen Jimmy Butler, 2 finals appearances. Are you really happy about a play-in win if you get it? Like, really? Like, you've seen multiple titles. You've seen multiple Hall of Famers, multiple all-time legendary guys. LeBron James, maybe the best player we've ever seen play the game of basketball, play for your team. And you're excited because you're the 10th seed and you might get a win in a play-in game? Don't you think you should have a little more shame than that? Just asking for a friend. If you're 30 years old and you're a Bulls fan, you've seen MVP Derrick Rose. You've obviously were a little too young to have caught it, but you were basically born at the inception of Michael Jordan's dynasty. So you've got the greatest player ever, a more unanimous greatest player ever. You've seen Derrick Rose, the youngest MVP in the history of the league. And you've been essentially the standard for play-in team. And you're excited for a play-in win? Will's a Bulls fan, and Will keep saying he's sick of them being in the play-in. He'd rather them blow it up and go tank. The worst spot you can be in is being in the middle. And the play-in is the definition of the middle. Have some shame. If you're in the West, you're the Dallas Mavericks fan. You just made the NBA Finals. Yes, your season blew up because your GM made a really stupid trade and basically derailed your franchise for the next decade. But you just made the finals. You've seen Dirk Nowitzki, one of the greatest players ever, maybe the greatest international player ever. You saw maybe the greatest finals run ever when he did in 2011. And you're going to be excited about a play-in win? In a season you finished well under 500? Kings fans, I know you guys always feel like you got screwed because your greatest teams lined up with some of the great Lakers teams, the Kobe and Shaq teams, that never felt like they got to do as much as they should have. But you're going to be excited about a play-in win? I know you're also in a weird spot because maybe not the level of Luka Doncic, but you guys just traded away De'Aaron Fox, who's been your franchise's all-star and cornerstone and best piece. And I know you still have Sabonis, but now there's talks about him. Like, the play-in, even the players don't think it's worth it when there's reports coming out of Sacramento that both DeRozan and Sabonis are already looking to talk to management about their futures in Sacramento and how they're unsure of them. And DeMar just got there. And Sabonis has been there. And Sabonis was fighting for a top 3 seed. And now he's in the play-in? We got to stop watching these games. Fan bases, we got to have some shame. I know. And we're gonna talk about my team. Don't worry, I'm gonna get to my team later because my team is doing some stuff that maybe isn't the best, but we'll see. You gotta have a little bit of shame and have a little bit of standards when it comes to sports. When we keep letting these, and I get it, I love sports as much as trust me, I love sports as much as anyone. And I've watched really bad baseball. I've watched really bad basketball. I've watched really bad football. But at some point, we have to say, hey, enough is enough. You can't just keep feeding us the worst possible version of all of these sports and expect us to keep spending money, spending time, spending resources. Like, did anybody really watch that Magic Hawks game last night and enjoy it? Ask yourself that. And the Warriors are always going to be a little exciting because Steph is just one of the most exciting players you've ever had in the game of basketball. And so his playing games specifically have been more energized. We know the Sacramento performance he put on, him and LeBron a few years ago. Like, he's just a different level of exciting no matter what the environment is. But, like, really? Like, do better. Have some shame, fans. Stop watching these playing games. They're not good. It's not good for the league. It's not good for the players. It's not good for the environment of competitive basketball. And again, ask yourself, besides the Warriors, who a lot of you are going to convince yourself because of Steph that they should be here, how many of those teams do you think are going to be competitive in their playoff series? Like the Magic chanting, "We won Boston." Really? What, you want to lose? You want to get swept? Like, you want to lose by 30 in games 1 and 2? Is that what you want? You want Boston? You want that? The Warriors going to Houston? I think there's a slight chance. I think Houston wins anyway. I did my predictions yesterday, but I understand that people are going to convince themselves because of Steph specifically that, oh, the Warriors got a chance against Houston and they're the vet team versus Houston's a really young team. But did any of those teams feel like they really have a chance? And whoever turns out to be the 8 seeds going against Cleveland and OKC? Really? Another thing I want to address here, and this is, it's kind of, we normally do not serious around this time, but I want to also look into this because I think this matters. I'm going to expand on this a little bit more tomorrow as well. And that is, the Thunder just set the record for the largest point per game differential in NBA history, plus 12.9. They were beating teams by almost 13 points a game. That's an incredible statistic. I also think in 2025, we need to start putting context next to all of these records. Look, if the sport has changed and we acknowledge it, we have to put context next to some of these guys and some of these teams that break records and do amazing things and know, okay, it's different than the previous teams that did this. Tanking is a much more just known strategy now. Now, it's always happened. I'm not going to sit there and say, like, guys in the 90s or teams in the 90s never tanked or teams in the 80s never tanked or no era of basketball or professional sports has ever tanked prior to this one. But there's a difference. Teams start tanking now after about 3 to 4 weeks into a season. If you just know you're not going to be good, you just start doing certain things. I've brought up multiple times now, like Brandon Ingram, who I love. I am a big Brandon Ingram fan. I will never forget what he did for the Pelicans. One of my favorite players in the league. He got a sprained ankle and missed several months. And why? Because Zion was also injured at the same time, and the Pelicans got off to a slow start, and we're like, you know what? Maybe it's not worth it to do it this season. And then you see some of the lineups. When you start seeing those Game 82 lineups in Game 50, where like there's a guy or two called up from the G League and a rookie who really shouldn't be starting, but they want to get extra minutes, that's going to lead to some of these teams stacking up even more wins than what they should have. That's going to lead to guys having even better stats than what they should have because they're playing against guys who just, you're not truly averaging 30 plus points a game against competitive teams for all 82. And again, no one ever truly has. No one has ever truly been like, oh, you play top-notch competition all 82 games out of the year, et cetera, this, that. But it's kind of my same thing in baseball where look at some of the ballparks as there's multiple teams transitioning. Go look at where the A's are playing. Go look at where the Rays are playing. And look how many more home runs are being hit comparatively to where these teams were when they were in the Coliseum, when they were at Tropicana. And those are all going to get started. I watched the Rays Angels the other day. Angels hit 6-7 home runs, and all but one of them would not have been a home run in Tropicana because they went right field and they were between that 414 to 422 mark. So it was because that wall is shorter, so it can't bounce off the wall nearly as well, and they were all around like again that 414 to 420. So instead of being a fly ball to right field, they were home runs, and those will eventually add up to the point of, well, what if a guy we always criticized, and baseball writers especially have always taken it out against Arlington, Coors Field. Oh, those are hitters' parks. You should be hitting more home runs, so we're not going to view your stats the same. And because tanking is so rampant, some of these teams are picking up extra wins. So we don't, yes, this Thunder team won 68 games. No one thinks they're an all-time team. No one thinks they're right there with the Warriors and the Bulls and the Lakers and the all-time Celtics teams. They won just as many games. Same thing with the Cavs. And you look and you see the disparity in how low the win totals are for the worst team in the league. The Jazz, the Pelicans, the Wizards. And it just starts to reflect in how high the high-end teams are and how many wins they have. And we got to start putting context on this. Are you getting the Coors Field advantage, essentially, when it comes to home runs, but for wins? And that's why Thunder fans, I know they're all upset because they're not getting the respect they deserve. Well, you're not a true 68-win team to the way that we've always been exposed to 68-win teams. And that's not being, I don't think, unfair. I don't think that's being putting them in a situation where, oh, that's just unreasonable or that's totally unfair analysis. There's far more teams tanking than there ever has been in the history of the sport. And teams tank even earlier because we understand what a flagship prospect can do for your franchise. So yeah, you're not doing well. You get a guy injured, or you get a guy or two injured, and Cooper Flagg's in the draft. You're tanking. You get a couple guys not work out well, and Victor Wembanyama's in the draft. You're tanking. It's just the current way of the NBA. Half these there's there's going to be 5 or 6 teams truly competing for a title, and there's 5 or 6 teams truly competing to get the number 1 overall pick. It's no longer a just naturally be bad. And now there are some teams that are just naturally bad. I think the Hornets were just naturally bad, and it didn't work out, and so I don't think they're in this tanking conversation. But the Wizards, the Pelicans, post-injuries, the Jazz, like, that's why we don't view the Thunder and the Cavs, even though they were 60-plus win teams, and the Celtics we only really consider because they just won the title. If the Celtics had not just won the title, we wouldn't even view their 60 wins the same. 60 wins used to be a mark of the highest level of, if you were winning 60 games in a season, that was big-time stuff. Now there's too many teams tanking. Sorry. I'm not going to put the same amount of respect or the same amount of care or the same amount of passion and excitement and like the same respect on it. I just can't. So I'm not saying you're not a serious 60-win team, and I didn't want to necessarily replace not serious with that, but I'm gonna reiterate some of this more tomorrow as well. But that's why it's so hard to view some of these, even though teams put up all-time win totals. Now, if you break the record, fine. We always acknowledge breaking a record. Even if half the league was tanking and you won 74 games or 75 games, and you beat the Warriors record, we would acknowledge that because we are always going to acknowledge breaking a record. But if the Thunder had won 70 games, would we feel like they are so much more overwhelming favorites? A lot of people don't need the favorite to come out of the West. Just some food for thought. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily.
Because you really, when you can start arguing with your parents, if you just say who's your favorite artist between the two.
Oh, I would not dare argue with my mom about. Fuck no. My mom going to see Mary J. Blige next week, mind you.
My mom went to see like 2 weeks ago when she was whenever she was here.
I said, see, there you go. Because you really, when you can start arguing with your parents, if you just say who's your favorite artist between the two.
Oh, I would not dare argue with my mom about. Fuck no. My mom going to see Mary J. Blige next week, mind you.
My mom went to see like 2 weeks ago when she was whenever she was here.
I said.
And with that, we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Shout out to Mary the Queen. Go check out more clips we got from Group Chat Podcast. Don't forget, Group Chat A&M is back this week as well. A lot here going on the network. So, when you're a kid, right? Kids all make mistakes. We understand this. Kids all make mistakes. We're all gonna make mistakes. One of the supposed to be one of the clear differences between when kids make mistakes and when adults make mistakes is that when you acknowledge the mistake, you need to be upfront about it. You're not supposed to hide. You're not supposed to, just text an apology. Like, you ever seen that? Like, you shouldn't be texting apologies. Apologies should be face-to-face, especially if you do wrong by someone. When you do wrong by someone, you should look them in the eyes and say, hey, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. It's hard. It's tough. It's also called life. Nico Harrison, who is an adult, who is paid very well to do a job, he is the man who essentially traded Luka Doncic for a reason that, to this day, none of us understand. And he did his first press conference about it, and everything was wrong. Everything was wrong about it. First off, the most important thing, when you admit you're wrong and you go face to face, and when you're in the kind of position he's in, you got to let cameras in the room, dude. To have a press conference and say, no audio recording or video recording devices allowed. Meaning, I'm just going to give the same horrible one-liners that are going to be newspaper headlines that I've been giving, and no one's going to be able to see my reaction. No one's going to be able to see my face. I don't really actually want to face the music for the decision that I made. If you really felt that confident about it, own your decision. Own it. Tell the world in the manner that your job, which is public, just own it. No. You want to sit there. And the second thing wrong is Dallas finally had some good news. AD, now, we all know my thoughts about the plan. But AD is finally back. He's playing really well. They just drafted Paige in the WNBA. There was finally some good news coming for Dallas sports fans. The Cowboys have to play soon, so that'll all get ruined anyway. But finally some good news for Dallas sports fans. And you then decide to ruin it by doing this just extremely cowardly press talk? Well, I'll admit I'm wrong, but not on camera, or not where anyone can see me, or not where anyone can actually, the way that you're supposed to do the job, because it is a public job. It's why you're paid millions of dollars to do it. Yes, it's tough. Yes, it's hard, but that's why you're extremely well compensated, and you're an adult. If you do wrong by someone, you are supposed to look them in the eyes and apologize. We do it with kids, or whenever kids want to apologize, they always look to the left, they look to the right, or they look down, and you correct them and say, no, when you do wrong, when you make a mistake, you own it, you look that person in the eyes. Yes, it's tough. Yes, it's hard. You're a grown-ass man. To do a private presser where you're telling people don't bring your cell phones, I don't want to be recorded. I know we live in a world where there's people that record way more than they're supposed to. I get that. But this isn't one of those situations. This is your job. if I messed up in this field of what I do, I would have to sit there, look at the camera, and say, hey, I'm wrong. I made a mistake. We all just killed Stephen A few weeks ago because of the way that he handled a LeBron James response. Because he started just saying these inflammatory and just outright incorrect things live on television to however many millions of people watch his show. He was wrong. And he was supposed to look in the camera and say he's wrong. And he did, to his credit, on some of the things. And it's hard, and it's tough, and it's called being an adult, and it's called life. To hide behind a no video, no audio recorded press conference when you made one of the worst trades in NBA history that no one understands. If anything, just help us to understand. If you're so smart and you're so brilliant and you understand what you're doing and you show us that you have competency in the job, help us to understand what it is you just did. Instead, you're hiding behind, well, I'll still say the same things I've been saying, which could have all been tweets, which all could have been individual press releases as far as through old mediums such as newspaper. You didn't need a press conference for that. That was a coward-ass press conference. If I was a Mavericks fan, I'd be pissed. The Suns owner right now is getting a lot of shit, and we're going to wrap up here. Suns owner's getting a lot of shit because he went to the finals and then blew the team up, but at least it was in the attempt of making moves and trying to do good by the fans. Yes, Bradley Beal has not worked out, but going to acquire Bradley Beal is still trying to bring something in for the fans, for their entertainment, for the success of the franchise, whether it works out or not. Trying to bring in Kevin Durant is good for the fans, good for the franchise, trying to win. The Mavs owner, the new owner, and current GM, are you trying to do good by the franchise by trading away Luka Doncic? And then that whack-ass press conference? This ain't it, man. This ain't it. When we come back from the break, we are going to be reeling. We did our western side of the bracket yesterday. We are going to be doing our Eastern Conference bracket. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody as always.
Because you really, when you start arguing with your parents, if you just say who's your favorite artist between the two.
And we are back. It is the start of our hour 2 here. Excuse me. So yesterday we did our Western Conference side of the NBA playoff bracket. And today we're going to go with the Eastern side. Again, we now know the Magic are the 7th seed. So we have a little bit more detail there. But again, I've been pretty consistent on this point. Whether it was the Magic as the 7th seed, the Hawks as the 7th seed, if the Heat, I don't think could have got it, but the Bulls is the 7th seed. Yeah, exceeded the 10. So the highest they could get is 8. None of these teams were beating Boston, so it doesn't matter that much, which is the reality of it. So even though we have more of a clear and defined who is the 7, it wasn't going to change my opinion. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. So with that being said, let's pull myself here, make me smaller if I can. There we go. Making myself smaller, bringing me to the corner so that we can fill out our NBA playoff bracket, the Eastern side. Now, here we go again. You can see all the picks. We have the Timberwolves making it out of the West. Yeah, Timberwolves making it out of the West. So over here, the Eastern side of the NBA playoffs. Now, not going to surprise anyone, I think, here. Cavs and still to be decided. We'll see if it's the Hawks. We'll see if it's the Heat. We'll see if it's the Bulls. What does Shannon Sharp say? Cavs, Heat, Bulls, or Heat, Bulls, Hawks, don't care. Cavs in 5. Look, man, and it might even be Cavs in 4. The Cavs, I have legitimate issues long-term against some of the other really strong contenders in the league, mainly because their high end is just, frankly, not as high as some of the other teams. Like Donovan Mitchell, you don't view in the same light that we view Jason Tatum or SGA or the other contenders. But no, they're not going to get challenged by a 7th seed or the 8th seed. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. I'm going to get to Pacers Bucks last, and I'll explain why. Knicks Pistons. Yesterday, I said this was my favorite upset call of the first round. I think the Pistons are deep. I think what the Pistons are going to be able to throw at the Knicks, again, Thompson on Jalen Brunson, be able to throw bodies plus Isaiah Stewart at Karl Anthony Towns. And I think this is where you're going to actually see Cat, who's had a great season. He's going to be an all-NBA team, whether second or third. Was even in consideration at parts of this year for even potentially first. Cat's had a hell of a year in New York. This is where you're going to see if the pressure gets to him, though. Is Cat going to be able, in the playoffs, as teams are being physical with him, is he going to be able to sustain the level that he's had throughout the course of the regular season? Don't know, but we'll find out. I don't personally believe so. I think there's going to be a lot of struggles with Brunson, especially again with Thompson guarding him. I think the Pistons are going to be physical. I think it's going to be a lower scoring series, just the nature of the way these two teams play. I also believe that Cade is going to be able to dictate the pace far better than Jalen will. I don't think the Knicks have a defender as good as Thompson, so they're not going to be able to push back on Cade the way I think that the Pistons are going to be able to push back on Brunson. So this is my favorite pick yesterday, and I'm rolling with it still. I've got Pistons beating the Knicks. This is my favorite upset, my most confident upset in the first round of the playoffs for either side of the bracket. Then we get to Celtics Magic. The only thing interesting about this series is Tony says the Celtics are not set up to sweep people. Just the nature of shooting so many threes is they're going to have a game where you go like 13 of 50 from 3 and they'll lose that game. And so he's like, they're probably going to win most of this series 4-1. And so I guess Magic fans, you have that to look forward to. You will beat the Boston Celtics, potentially the 2-time defending champs, once. Celtics in 4. Look, I know yesterday I said a great all-time player, because there is a difference in great all-time between what are the LeBron, Mike, Kobe's of the world versus the modern-day greats, Jokic, Giannis, whoever. If SGA wins a title, probably people are going to throw him in that category if he's got an MVP plus a title. But I do believe in my heart of hearts, and it's specifically with Giannis that, and I know the Bucks aren't nearly as good as they've been in the past, and there's no Dame, and there's other issues they've had. I truly believe this Bucks team isn't very good. I think Giannis is amazing. And this is my bold prediction, sure to backfire. I think Giannis is going to go crazy these playoffs. And I think as a result of Giannis going crazy these playoffs, I think we're going to see the Bucks make a run, especially because they ended up on the opposite side of the Celtics. So despite everything I said yesterday about a one player not being able to do it, I do think one player is going to be able to do it, and I have the Bucks winning. Now, I think it's going to be tough. I think the Bucks are going to win in 6. I think Giannis is going to average 32, 12, and 6, and as well as 2 to 3 blocks. And Giannis is unique in this regard because he's the only guy that can do it on offense and defense. Now, as crazy as that stat line is, 32, 12, and 6, it's basically just his stat line with like an extra point or 2. Like, that's how incredible Giannis has been, not just this season, but the last several years and just his career in general. That then puts us Cavs, Bucks. We'll flip over because I just talked Bucks. Now we have in the second round, we have Pistons and Celtics. Look, Pistons fans, this is where if you want to be discussed, like you want to put Cade in those early MVP conversations next year, if you want to put the Pistons as a team to watch, as invading that space that Boston and Cleveland and the New York had on the hold of the Eastern Conference in terms of who is the best team out east, this is the series you need to show up, you need to deliver, you need to play. It's very, 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 very unlikely you have a chance to win this series, but if you want to start getting it in people's mind that the Pistons are for real, we have the coach, we have the star player, we're going to have cap space because no one's really paid yet. We have the guys, right? This is the series you need to get to 6, 7 games and show the world, hey, we're not just up next, we're here now, and we deserve to be in that conversation when you start thinking about, okay, who's going to be the best team in the Eastern Conference? It's not just the Celtics or not just the Cavs or not just the Knicks. This is the series where you do it. You have a big series. If Cade has a big series, Thompson has a big series, and the Pistons are competitive and they get this to 6 games and they're giving Boston a run for their money, you're going to get a lot of earned, by the way, very earned and deserved narratives going into next year. And so I like the Pistons a lot. I don't think they can win this series. I still think Boston wins. I think the generous answer is 6. I think Boston could win this in 5. But if you're the Pistons, this is the series where you make a name for yourself. 1,000%. Cavs, Bucks. Again, this is a gut feeling. We are just rolling with our guy here. Giannis hasn't won a playoff game in over 2 years. The Bucks have, but Giannis missed some time in the playoffs, remember, a few years ago. So Giannis hasn't won since that series against the toe series against Durant and the Nets. That was the Durant, Harden, Kyrie Nets. That's kind of crazy. Just how great Giannis is and to have not won a single playoff game in several years. I think we're recorrecting a lot of that. I think there's been a lot of, because of Jokic's rise to greatness and the extra MVPs and winning a title, we've almost just put Giannis in this, yeah, he's great, but so, and he's averaging numbers and doing things that have literally never happened in the history of the NBA. And so because of that, we are rolling with Giannis this entire postseason through the NBA. And the Cavs, this is a great team as far as the regular season. Donovan Mitchell, hell of a player, but I don't think he's a superstar. Evan Mobley, hell of a player, would be my vote for Defensive Player of the Year over Draymond especially. But I don't think he is the guy in terms of, like, the Cavs are just a really, really good team. I do not think they are some true juggernaut, super all-time team, even with the 64 wins. Most people, even though they're the 1 seed, wouldn't say they're better than the Celtics. And I just think Giannis is going to be the best player in this series. Again, I think he's going to both offensively and defensively impact this game. And I don't think this is 100% a Giannis opinion. And if I'm wrong, I'm down to go out in flames. He's the best player, and I think he is going to go on an all-time postseason run. And we've seen shades of that by the way he's been playing the last few weeks. Since Dame is gone, the Bucks are weirdly been better since they lost Dame. And I don't want to throw dirt on Dame's name. I don't want to downplay how great of a player he is. But the Bucks have been oddly better since Dame went out to injury, and I think that's going to continue. So Giannis and the Bucks over the Cavs. Now, I do think this is, again, a 6, potentially 7-game series. These are not going to be easy wins for the Bucks by any means. And then we're going to get down to kind of to cap off yesterday's episode, where does a great player truly nullify a great team, or does a great team nullify a great player? The Celtics are the best team in the Eastern Conference. The Celtics are, gun to my head, the best team in the NBA. They should be back-to-back defending champions by the time this playoff run is over. That being said, does anyone think Jason Tatum is better than Giannis Antetokounmpo right this second? There's going to be an argument if they go back-to-back, and you're going to be able to put up his accolades and say, okay, is he better than Giannis? There's going to be an argument for it, 1,000%. But as today, as we speak, April 16th, 2025, is Jason Tatum better than Giannis Antetokounmpo? I say no. Now, this series, this is going to be the rule of Shaq. We've had this conversation the last several years of, and Shaq has always been the guy because Shaq was so dominant, but it was a dominant inside force. He was dunking on everybody. It was 2-pointers. Could Shaq at his peak and those Laker teams beat the Warriors and this version of today's NBA with everyone shooting threes? And there's been a bunch of people who've always said no, the Warriors would shoot him out the building, threes more than 2, et cetera, et cetera. And there's people that think, well, Shaq might just get you 60 points in the paint. Could anyone stop him? He's putting guys in foul trouble. But and both have true valid arguments if you want to really get into it. This is going to be the series where you see if that's true. Giannis is the most powerful and impactful and dominant post player or paint player in the NBA. Offensively and defensively. The Celtics are the best shooting team in the NBA. And you're going to have, I think you're going to see during the course of a series, I think you're going to see both be true. Which is, you're going to see the Celtics just hit 25, 33s and just shoot Giannis out of the game, and he's going to be irrelevant, even if he has 50 points. They're just going to shoot way too many threes. They're going to shoot him out of the game, and they're just going to blow the Bucks out. And I think you're going to see a game where they're not shooting like crazy, and Giannis is going to go for 45 to 50, and he's going to be a monster in the paint, both on offense and defense, and he is going to win a game by himself. And it's, what do you think is going to happen more? Again, I repeat, the Celtics are the best team in the Eastern Conference. The Celtics are the best team in the NBA. I just think Giannis is going to go on one of those runs, man. This is a 1,000% gut feeling. This is not a. I would, if you were to tell me, say, hey, put my money on who should win the title. This is not a put your money on them kind of take. This is a gut feeling. What I think is going to happen. Bucks in 7, which puts us in a Minnesota-Milwaukee NBA Finals, and we are going to break down that potential series tomorrow. But I feel good about this. Again, the playoffs never truly work out the way they are supposed to, except for some very rare years. It's never just best player, best team, boom, 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 go through the playoffs, no issues. That's very rare. It's not a real thing that happens consistently. And so I believe that we're going to watch two very special playoff runs, and I do think these teams will support each other. Like I don't think the Bucks are very good, but I think Portis is going to play well in the playoffs. Dame most likely is not going to play at all. There's some conflicting reports that he might come back by the time the finals is, but considering it's a blood clot and the nature of that injury, I wouldn't rely on it, nor obviously try to push Dame to come back any earlier because that has long-term health implications, obviously. But this is, I think the Timberwolves are going to have a great team run, and like you still need star players. I know I keep saying, oh, a star player can't do it alone, and I do believe that, which is why I don't think the Nuggets are going to go very far, even though Jokic is the best player at the game. But I do think if you have just some team support and a great playoff run from an individual, this is how we're going to get this NBA Finals. So this is our West, this is our East, and this Timberwolves Bucks is our NBA Finals. This is HardFoul Radio. We will be back momentarily. And we are back to close things out here. So, and I feel like this has to be said way more, unfortunately, than it should. And that is enjoy. I keep saying make regular season games matter. And that's because we've just gotten to this point in media and the way we analyze a lot of these guys that we don't want to act like their regular season games matter because we want to put such a huge emphasis on the playoffs. And I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to go totally correct it and go, oh, the playoffs don't matter. But I'm not going to sit there and say that the playoffs are all that defines a guy's legacy or the playoffs are all that defines someone. Look, man, and I hate to give credit, but it was one of the smarter things I think I heard yesterday, and that is Nick Wright's opinion on why you couldn't trade Luka Doncic. But I think it applies to a lot more players than just Luka, but I'll give credit where credit is due. And he said, look, even if Luka had turned into this guy who was injury-riddled because of his weight and was literally drinking before the games, if he was still as productive as he's been, and if you never get back to a title, you'd sign up for it, and he would still have a statue. He brought up Dirk. He said, even if LeBron, let's say you rewrite 2011 and LeBron has a great postseason instead of maybe his worst postseason, Dirk would still have a statue outside the Mavericks arena. You would take 20 years of greatness, even if it didn't culminate with an NBA title. Oklahoma City Thunder fans, you guys have had Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Paul George. You now have SGA, and you guys believe Chet Holmgren and maybe even Jalen Williams are going to turn into these superstars. Enjoy the season you just had. Remember what it felt like to be the 68-win first seed in the West. Not everything is disappointing. Not everything is title or bust. Yes, it's okay to have expectations. But enjoy the actual game. Enjoy the moment. If this is who SGA is, you're always going to be in that contention, 55-plus wins. He's always going to be in that MVP level conversation. And let's say he's got another decade to go in his career. It's a hell of a career. Probably be a Hall of Famer. Enjoy that. I keep saying, when we saw Nuggets fans, Jokic, enjoy this. Even if you never get back to another title. Yeah, that might seem disappointing, and pundits and critics on TV and on YouTube are going to say, yeah, it's disappointing. How'd you only get one title with Jokic? But when he has these 60-point triple-doubles, when he has these passes behind his head that you've never seen another big man do, when he just dominates the game of basketball in ways we've never seen someone do it before, as unique as he's done it, enjoy these moments. There's a reason why they gave us 82 games to watch and then the playoffs. 82 might be too many, but there's a reason why they gave us a regular season and then a postseason. Enjoy the games. Enjoy being a sports fan. Not everything has to be title or bust. You don't have to go watch someone say, who's got the most pressure to win a title? Well, it's clearly LeBron in year 22. Why does LeBron have anything to be pressured about in year 22? Just to go enjoy the fact we still get to watch LeBron James play basketball. Enjoy the fact you get to watch LeBron play with Luka. Enjoy the fact we get this young Houston team and what they might potentially become. There's so many cool storylines that always exist throughout any sport if you will look at its best teams and its playoff teams. Go be a fan of the sport. Go be a fan of the games. Go be a fan of the players. Don't just be a fan of the discourse. Is that how you got into sports? Did you get into sports by liking the way people talk about it? Or did you get into sports because you liked watching people play at these extremely high levels? Did you get into sports because it enamored you when you first saw your first NBA game or NFL game or Major League Baseball game? Enjoy the games. I know that's a wild statement, but enjoy the games. Enjoy the moments. Enjoy what SGA is doing. Enjoy what Jokic is doing. Enjoy what Giannis is doing. Enjoy the Knicks. Enjoy what the Knicks are doing. It's okay to enjoy it. I promise you. And doesn't matter who your favorite pundit is, Stephen A., Nick Wright, etc. They can't make you just because they're going to have a certain level of discourse and they're going to have certain conversations and they're going to talk about your team in a certain light or they're going to talk about your star player in a certain way. It's okay. It doesn't really matter. Go enjoy the games. It's okay. The playoffs are around. The playoffs are about to start. Enjoy playoff basketball. With that being said, appreciate everybody as always. This is HardFoul Radio. Don't forget to go check out Group Chat. Don't forget to check out 90 Feet.